to another Sunday WOAY ABC4 Community Forum, where we talk to community leaders and local success stories to discuss important information that affects all of us here in Southern West Virginia. I'm your host, Brandy Lawrence, and today we're joined by another distinguished guest. Lee Leftwich, who is the director of the Muster Project in the Teen Court, is joining us here today. Thank you so much for coming to the forum.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for the people out there that are unaware of what Teen Court is and how long it's, been around here, what can you speak to that?
The Raleigh Teen Court is a court system that was established over 13 years ago. There's others around the states, but one of the things that's so prevalent about teen courts is that there was an act that was introduced from the Office of Juvenile Justice Department to allow community entities to be involved in the juvenile justice system. So in 1974, a law was passed that allowed states to be able to create teen courts. Now, when we talk about teen courts and here in Raleigh County, we really don't have any authority. We can't arrest anybody, anything of that nature. But what happens is that we get our youth from the Juvenile Probation Department. They're referred to us for first-time offenders. So an individual, juvenile who has committed a first-time offense, have an opportunity to come to the Raleigh County Teen Court. It's not automatic, but it's an opportunity. And what we do is that we interview the child and the parents to make sure they are candidates for it. And with that, then the youth that has been trained to conduct the court procedures have a trial. The kids that I train them to become the lawyers, the prosecuting attorney, defense attorney, the jurors. Well, we really don't change the jury because the juries just shouldn't even know anything about the case, but the clerk and the bailiff. And we have a judge who is really someone who's passed the bar exam. It's kind of hard to get our circuit court judges to be able to be a citizen. They've been working all day with the criminals, so then they don't want to come to our courts. But the law allows us to be able to have someone who has passed the state bar exam, and they can preside over the case as well. And so we have the opportunity to work with youth and to be able to mentor to them for the charges they have. And it's not that they come and we try to try them as being innocent or guilty. They have admitted to their guilt. So it's sort of a punishing, or I don't like to use punishing, but a disciplinary position, because really we become mentors. Our whole idea is trying to change the child's mindset of what they did. And the caveat about that is this, that once the child has completed the sentence, then that juvenile petition is not filed. So they don't have a criminal history. The cases that we have are soft cases, so there's not really criminal cases that will normally go to a regular court system. So it's an opportunity of a choice that the kids have. And one of the things that happens is this: we can't make them do anything. They're with they're with me, because I'm the one that actually delivered the disposition for like 90 days. And it's like, over the 90 days, if they were to get in trouble again, I have no choice but to send them back to juvenile probation, and it starts over again. Some of our successful races we've had is that over the years, we've had probably about 52 kids from, like I said, been in this for 13 years. So we had about 52 kids have come through the teen court, which is average about 4 kids a year. And needless to say, it's not 100%, but it's a good 95, 80, 95%. Some of the kids just don't want to do. I've had one young man, he only had 1 day left to do his disposition, and he wouldn't do it. I had no choice but to send him back. And he got no credit for what he did with me, and had to go through juvenile probation court. Yeah. So it's a wonderful thing. Kids, they learn how the court system. They learn how the system is working. Over the years, I've trained probably, I would say trained, but it's because someone was involved with the jury part. But probably maybe about 15 to maybe 20 individuals who played the role of the lawyers. Out of those, I know at least 6 of them that went to law school. Because what it is, it's a prerequisite to becoming a lawyer. You actually have to interview the child. I mean, they assign the case, they talk with the parents, they talk with the child. They develop an open statement. and then they do questioning, cross examinations. I mean, it's really something to see, and it's wonderful to know that someone wants to become lawyers, and this is a way that they have an opportunity to be that.
Yeah, it looks like a good, opportunity for everyone, because it's an intervention, for the person that, you're trying to help, and then you're also giving these young people a chance to get into a career that they might,
exactly,
really love.
Yeah. And one of the things that we have it at the Raleigh County Courthouse in the old Judge Burnside's office. So when the kids come into the room, I mean, I don't know how some of the other counties have their system set up, but I know when they come into the courtroom, it's like, this is real. I mean, this is no joke, because you got your judges stand, the jury quarters, and everything is set in places because it's a real live courtroom, right? So you give it that reality. And if you just hit it in a room and just a couple of desks, they don't really get the sense, the feel of it, because they're nervous now, But it's all a protocol, and when I tell them, when they through the interview, I said, listen, we're not going to treat you like a criminal. You're not a criminal. You made a stupid mistake, a dumb mistake. You wasn't thinking, but now you have a chance to realize that we're here to help you out. Yes.
Yeah. And what type of cases do you all usually see in teen court?
Well, we have most of the cases, we call them soft cases, small misdemeanor, vandalism, destruction of property, fighting, and some of the cases that we have, I can't say diminished, because we used to have kids for shoplifting. I don't know when the last time we got a shoplifting case. I don't know if kids are still not shoplifting or they just not being prosecuted. I don't know. But because years back we used to have a shoplifting program as well. If it was kids who were caught for shoplifting, again, they had an opportunity to come to our shoplifting program. It was a booklet that they would purchase, and they would take it home for 8 hours. They would watch a DVD, ask the questions, come back, and have an 8 hour of sort of a group session. They complete that, then that juvenile petition is not filed. Now, we had that for over 20 years, and then the numbers started diminishing. And right now, with the teen court, they do have an opportunity, if they've been caught for shoplifting, depends on the juvenile probation department, they do have an opportunity to come to teen court. We would try them on that. But most now in our cases today, and it's sad to say, is dealing with vaporing. Vaporing is I won't call it a fad. I mean, when I was coming up, there were certain things that we did. And right now, vaporing is really overcoming the middle school kids. It's even in the elementary schools. They have no idea what is in the vapor products. And I have from one middle school right now, I've had eight students referred to me for vaporing this year. And so I know the other middle schools and high schools, because we wouldn't work with elementary kids, because the kids have to be at least 10 years old to be, because you spank them on the button, let them go on. But but I know the other middle schools are having these problems too. So I'm trying to reach out to them. I hope they would, take a breath of this, because they need to be educated about what's in vaporing, the e-cigarettes. And a lot of them don't realize that, and I didn't until I started really investigating it, they have targeted the youth with this, with the flavors. This is my summation of it, with the vaporing thing, because it's such a big thing today. In 1960, there was a gentleman named Lamont Gilbert, and invented what they called a smokeless cigarette. And it was supposed to keep you from smoking. Not keep you from smoking, but make you stop smoking, right? In 1963, he got a patent on it. Never heard no more about it. Because why? The tobacco companies didn't want that to come out. So it vanished. Well, years back in the early 90s, the states sued the tobacco company, got something like $250 million. It was spread around the states. West Virginia got some. I got some of the money to do a tobacco program, for kids' education. The money went away. The same year that the tobacco companies gave that money to the states, the tobacco companies took their tobacco to China. Because over in China, you had to be up on a lot to be able to use cigarettes, right? They flooded it for the youth to use. Well, the old thing is, you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back type of attitude. So in 2006, a Chinese chemist created the e-cigarettes. And who did he flood the markets with? In the United States. Who did he target? The youth. In vaporing, the nicotine is in all products. Nicotine gets to your brain in 10 seconds. Once you take that puff, 10 seconds is there. It takes 2 to 3 minutes for heroin, cocaine, anything else to get to your brain when you shoot it up. So kids who are using vaporing, e-cigarette products, are more susceptible to becoming addicted because of their young age, and their body won't be able to fight it off. And it's a shame because you're finding it in the schools. And now when they get caught with it in school, or it's not theirs, I'm holding it for someone. Always a different tale. I'm holding it for somebody. But 9 tenths of the law says possession is yours. So hopefully, and what I'm finishing up with some kids now. I have this is 6-7 sessions that I give them. First is orientation. I tell them my expectations, what they have to do. Then I have 6 sessions that I give them as questions and answers, and I actually give them the answers because I want them to know that they know. Do you know that there's drugs such as formaldehyde in tobacco products? Cadmium, fingernail polish remover, acetone that goes in batteries, antifreeze, all of these things. And they say, well, Mr. Leftwich, how are they in there? They are mystified. And when they're mystified, and all of the metal, aluminum, tin, lead, nickel, those things are in the e-cigarettes. So when that stuff gets in your body, it doesn't come out. When it gets in your lung, it doesn't come out. And so I tell the kids, I said, if you take a lead, like you go fishing, you got the sinker, you drop it in a bottle of water, I said, does it float back up? I said, no. So that's what happened with you smoking the e-cigarettes. In the vapor, I said, because that chemicals gets in the bottom of your lungs and it fills up. They've got programs now. They have a young lady that goes around the state. She's the West Virginia State Substance Abuse for Youth, and she shows them things that could happen to your body. Well, don't get me wrong. It's the same thing that was going on when you used tobacco products. Gross mouth, the lungs. Do you know hair grows on the back of your tongue from smoking? Kids said, that's not going to happen to me. It's that denial. See, so that's the bad thing. You got to get them to understand that this can happen to you. So hopefully, the kids that I'm training, well, I call them a training in vaporing, that they would take that message and tell other youth about it.
Definitely. And I know that it's becoming like a big thing nationwide as well. There are states and even, some people that are suing these companies because they were targeting kids. So that's definitely going to be a big thing. But we're, rolling up on our first break. If you could maybe shoot a way to get in touch with you all.
Oh, yes, you can call me at 304-731-6406 on my email address, which is leeleftwich67@gmail.com. Awesome. Okay, and that wraps up our first half. Come back for our second half where I speak more with Director Lee Leftwich on the teen court. Welcome back to Community Forum. I'm here with Director Lee Leftwich, and we're talking about the Raleigh County Teen Court. And in the first half, you mentioned that there was one young man who did not, complete his he only had one left, and he did not complete it. So is that something that you see often, or do they typically go through? No, typically they go through. One of the things that, a lot of youth gets into trouble because mainly around family issues. And this particular incident, the young man had to write an apology letter to his parents. He went through everything else. He just had to write that apology letter, and he couldn't do it. Well, he wouldn't do it, put it that way. And I begged and I pleaded with him because, all you need just write half of a paragraph. He wouldn't even do that. So sometimes you get into that because they are mad at the family members or something like that. And it's kind of hard to break into that. Yeah. Because I'm only with them basically once a week for about an hour. and it's not like I'm every day. No, they're with me for 90 days, but I'm with them probably 1 hour, 1 day a week, because it's a back and forth type thing. Because really you need reinforcements from the parents. If the parents is not involved, it's not I can do, because I can't make them do anything. And I tell them up front, I said, listen, I can't make you do anything. You got to be willing to want to do it. And your parents should be calling me instead of me having to call them to get you involved. But other than that, it's been pretty successful, yes.
That's good. And if not, what happened to the young man there? Like, what happens if you said that if they don't finish, they go back?
Yeah. Well, if they don't finish it, through me, through my program, I send them back to juvenile probation. And at juvenile probation, I'm not sure what they do, because when you go to juvenile probation, you are entitled to a lawyer. And because with teen court, we provide them a youth as a lawyer, but they are entitled to a lawyer to preside over their case. And they go before a judge, a magistrate or whatever, and then they decide on what would come out of that. I don't know what their limits are, because they have a lot more discretion than I do. So, but I try for that not to happen as much as I can. Yeah.
Definitely. And how is the teen court funded?
Well, basically the fund comes from fines, which is a wonderful thing. I used to write grants. I'm a director of the Munster Project, and we've been around since 1990, with quite a few years. And I was writing grants to be able to sustain with that. But with teen court, it's money that comes from fines. Any fine that is issued to a person that breaks the law, other than seat belts and of child restriction, safety belts for child. There's no fine, and also parking tickets. But any fine that's written by any law official, $5 is collected upon the initial part of that fine, and that comes to teen court. So that's the way that it's funded. Funding it's up and down. Depends on who paid the fine. Yeah. I have a thing when I'm riding around town. I love those blue lights. $5.
Yeah. And it's actually the Click It or Ticket campaign right now starting up. And they say it's $25 if you get caught without a seatbelt. So you might have some money coming through.
Blue lights. Yeah.
And for the youth, that like to participate as the lawyers and things like that, where do you find them to?
Well, what I try to do is basically come from word of mouth from other youth. Youth can bring other youth, because I try to get into the schools, and I do have a way in getting into the schools, because I have people in my family that is involved in the school system. But I can only give it to the guidance counselor. I can't come in the classroom and disturb it. So I give it to the guidance counselors, basically. And I know guidance counselors are busy. They count how many days you've been in school and all grades and stuff. So sometimes I get lost in the shuffle. In other words, it doesn't get out. And so that makes it kind of hard. I used to have an ad, and may still be on public announcements on the TV. If they still have it, I'm not too sure. They still have it on Channel 4 through the city, have the public announcements. I have it on there, but you have to wait through all of these programs to come in. So basically, my kids come from word of mouth. Some kids who have been in the program, there have had other brothers or sisters. Some kids who have been in the program have been a part of the program. And that's another thing too now. I want to say this as well. Once the child finished the disposition, the hours, they have an opportunity to join teen court. They are required to come and sit on the jury at least one time from after they finish their disposition. And then after that, they can come and they can join teen court. And I've had probably over the years, I guess I probably have had maybe 6 or 7 of them that has gone through teen court that came and joined it afterwards. So it's a good thing, because they see the giving back. Teen court is a way of giving back. Juvenile justice is supposed to be about rehabilitation, not punitization, not penalty, not punishment, rehabilitation. So, I've been involved at state level, local level, state level, and federal level with juvenile justice. Going to D.C. and talk to policymakers trying to get policy change within the juvenile justice system. And one of the things that I say, because if you invite me to your meeting, I'm gonna speak. If you don't want me to speak, don't invite me to your meeting. I make the argument that we need to throw the juvenile justice chapter 49 out of the book, because it's not rehabilitation. And the reason I say that, look at our adult prisons. They're overcrowded. So where do they come from? They come from the juveniles. They hadn't been taught their lesson, learned their lesson, so to speak. So we have a tendency to not look at the whole true picture. There's been studies done that even the judges, that 45% of the judges are biased in their decisions when it comes to youth of color. I used to be what's called a DMC coordinator. Not the rap group, but it's called Disproportionate Minority Contact Coordinator. And what it was a grant, and I was looking at the representation of youth of color in our system. West Virginia was at the bottom of the list when it comes to the number of juveniles of youth of color being in institutions in our juvenile justice system. We had 95%. Based on other states, was like 10, 12, 8%, right? I had the role of trying to change that. And I was on my way of changing that. And I just said straight up, they threw me underneath the bus. One of the reasons why is this, and I tell people, the juvenile justice system is a business. It's an industry. There's employability, right? I mean, there's jobs, there's food, that people got to make furniture and stuff. So when you start trying to cut that off, you know, it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Because it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years for a program to actually kick up. I was going to my 3rd year. You know how hard it is to talk to a circuit court judge, other than being in shackles?
Yeah.
Right? You know, so I made way to the circuit court judges. They was interested in hearing it because they wanted to help out too. But the Division of Juvenile Justice Service seen fit to make it a grant. They didn't bring on as an employee. They made it a grant, which they had control over the money. So the 3rd year, they wanted to just give it to the 5 counties that I was working with. Nobody wanted to take it. And so I don't know where it is today. I mean, I have no idea, but I know it needs to be kicked back up, yes.
Definitely. And it's like, just so you mentioned, it's like a business. It's kind of like that school to prison pipeline. And we recently did a story where they did a study on the number of children who are disciplined and like the demographics of the kids that are disciplined in schools. And they found that more, you know, children of color, more foster kids, more poor people, they were getting more detention and more suspensions than their counterparts.
Exactly.
And I think it kind of starts there, and then it kind of segues into the prisons and things like that when they grow up.
Yeah, because one of the things that, sort of an antidote to what you're saying, poverty plays a part in it too. There was a young lady that I had met down in Charleston. She was a researcher from Marshall University. We was working together because she was doing numbers. She was at WVU, and she was trying to bring the point of why isn't there more conversation about poverty, about the youth of color, youth period, getting into the system. Well, I took it to DC with me, so because they have a forum each year about the juvenile justice system, right? So you can invite people to come, and it is an open session. So, and nobody really wanted to answer a question. Nobody really wanted to tackle that. You know, in West Virginia, poverty is a big issue, right? Yeah. And our kids, I mean, our youth is our natural resource. If we don't rely on them, if we don't build them up to carry the ball, then there will be no ball to carry. And that's why when they get up and they get out of school, they leave. So we got to do something about that.
Definitely. So if there was a parent or maybe somebody watching that maybe needs to utilize your services as teen court, do they just get in touch with you all and just kind of set it up, or is there a system that they need to go
well,
through?
You mean for us having a youth in trouble? Or now, if they have a youth in trouble, they would call. I'd be glad to talk with them, an initial. But in order for them to go through the whole process of teen court, it has to come from juvenile probation.
Gotcha.
It's about numbers. You got to keep records of numbers. But I have no problem with talking with an individual parent and a child if they figure, and I don't want to say it's called a scare straight, but kind of let them be aware. When I talk with the kids, I tell them, listen, I said, I'm going to tell you something. I can take you from Gene Spadero Juvenile Center to the Southern Regional Jail to the Federal Corrections System in 15 minutes. I said, just think about that. I said, in 15 minutes, you can be in 3 different institutions, and they're all at different levels. So they have a place for you, but you don't have to be at that place. Go to school, learn your lesson, become somebody. And I tell them, I said, I need you. I need you in my future, because I want to have a future, but you are my future. And I let them know that I'm genuinely concerned, that it's not cost of the money, because if the money wasn't coming in, I would still do it anyway. Because I know that there's blessings in doing and serving others. And for 33 years, I've been doing this. So something is happening for me.
Definitely. And it's important work. And like you said, like it doesn't feel like a scared straight type situation. It seems more like an intervention. We really want to help you. We see that you're kind of going down the wrong path, and like we want to help you steer you right.
Yeah, so you're back to the right path, because again, tell them up front, I can't make you do anything. I said it's all upon you. So you're giving it back to them. If you want to be successful with this, then you got to apply yourself. I can't make you. And I think that helps. And what I found out, sometimes I try not to be so systematic, if you want to call it that. So I want to get back down there. So this year, when the child completes the program, I send them a congratulation letter. Congratulating you on, completing the program, and thanking you, and hopefully that you'll keep this to another level. Because I think if you do that, sort of like a reward, because I can't give them no reward, but trying to give them something to show that it's very appreciative that they allow themselves to be in this, and maybe that I don't know. I'm trying all kind of things, but hopefully that would do that, and then especially with the ones that have been using vaporing, the e-cigarettes, whatever. Telling them to tell their others. So I'm trying to empower them, because they'll listen to them a lot more than listen to me. I was talking to a class of kids in the 7th grade middle school, and 2 little girls that were just chatting. Wouldn't even listen to me. I called them out. I didn't call their names. I said, there's two young ladies in here that conversation is not no good. So you have to have a tendency to want to let them be able to get back.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for joining us for the forum and, giving us all this great information. I'm sure, I learned a lot, so I'm sure that you all learned a lot too. So thank you guys for joining us for Sunday Community Forum. Be sure to come back next Sunday where we speak to another distinguished guest about things going on here in Southern West Virginia, and have a happy Sunday.